Appreciate it. Thank you.
You're listening to News 88.7.
Support for Houston Public Media.
Stay in the middle 3 lanes.
63 years of large selection. Now that's worth toasting to. Offering anniversary selections all month long. Details at specsonline.com. The fun starts here. Support comes from GenPro, a Houston-based home generator service providing power to homes during unexpected outages, helping with connectivity and productivity. More information is available at genpro.com.
And Children's Museum of Houston presenting Faithful Friends, an exhibit fostering connection, curiosity, understanding, and friendship. Families explore other cultures through the eyes of Houston kids. More at cmhouston.org.
Support comes from Novotny & Company, offering commercial and residential property tax protests for 38 years. The deadline to file a protest is May 21st in Harris County. Info and online filing at novotnycompany.com. From the Texas Newsroom, I'm Alexandra Hart. Some University of Texas at Dallas faculty members want their school to help international students who have recently had their visas revoked. The professors say they represent themselves, not their employer. KERA's Bill Ziebel reports.
UTD said last week 19 students so far have had their visas revoked, part of a federal crackdown on international students who may have participated in pro-Palestinian protests last year. Professor Simon Foss is the president of the American Association of University Professors Advocacy Chapter at UT Dallas. In a letter to UTD's president, he and other AAUP members urged the school to provide legal support for the students and keep them enrolled.
Exact numbers are proving difficult to determine, but at least 260 international students in Texas have had their visas revoked. With Ken Paxton running for the U.S. Senate, the race is on to become the next Texas Attorney General. Houston Public Media's Andrew Schneider says State Senator Mays Middleton of Galveston has made a strong start in his bid for the Republican nomination.
Middleton declared his candidacy on Tuesday, making him the second to declare after former U.S. Attorney John Bash. Political consultant Bill Miller says Middleton has an edge because of his willingness to commit his personal fortune as an oil and gas company owner to the race.
Mays Middleton's very, very wealthy, and unofficially he said that he'll put up to $25 million of his own money in the race. I have to say, that's a deterrent for other people getting in the race.
Northeast Texas State Senator Brian Hughes told the Houston Chronicle that he is also considering a run. Both Hughes and Middleton's Senate terms end next year. I'm Andrew Schneider in Houston.
Airbnb, Vrbo, and other short-term rental properties in Houston are now regulated by the city. Houston City Council approved rules requiring them to register with the city and allowing the registration to be revoked if renters repeatedly commit certain crimes. Council member Abby Kamen supported a last-minute amendment targeting owners of multiple short-term rentals. It allows the city to revoke all registrations if 3 or more units have problems within a 2-year period.
We're trying to narrowly tailor this while giving the city some leverage, and we're trying to tread as lightly as possible while still addressing the concerns and needs of the city of Houston.
Owners who fail to register with the city or otherwise violate the rules are subject to a misdemeanor charge with a fine of up to $500. The rules take effect in 180 days. I'm Alexandra Hart from the Texas Newsroom. Support for these Texas headlines comes from SECO, in partnership with HEB and Itron, presenting Thirst for Power, a documentary airing on PBS, exploring the connection between water and energy and its impact on Texas future supplies. Thirstforpower.com.
33 minutes past the hour, Texas Standard Time. I'm David Brown. When driving out west, it's difficult not to get that sense of freedom. Wide open sky, mountainous landscape. It can be so breathtaking, you may find yourself thinking, you know what, I should pack it all up and move out here. And you know what, if you have family ties to that area, the decision to move is likely that much easier. In fact, that's exactly what happened with Jason and Simone Dominguez, who decided to move to Fort Davis and pick up where Jason's great uncle Raul left off. Raul was an accomplished pitmaster in the region, having been written about in the Texas Observer as having the best barbecue in the state once upon a time. Well, you know what they say, where there's smoke, there's Daniel Vaughn. He's barbecue editor for Texas Monthly, and he did some investigating. Daniel, welcome back to the Texas Standard.
Great to be with you, David.
Tell us about Raul Dominguez. Who was he, and what about his legacy? Did you know about Raul?
So I didn't know about Raul really until doing research for this story. Well, really, I'd spoken to Alex Manley, who once upon a time had written for the paper in Marfa, and she had told me a story about going to Raul's barbecue, and that she had parked in his parking space without knowing it while he was out on an errand. He hit her car coming back to the restaurant, and instead of apologizing for it, came into the door, complained about the car being in the wrong parking place, and said, "Fire waits for no man," and went back to his barbecue pit
Fire
without
waits for no man.
without an apology, without anything. Fire waits for no
You
man.
should have that done as a patch and put on the back of your, jacket or something. Right?
It'd be a great pitmaster slogan.
Okay, so that was Jason Dominguez's what?
Great uncle.
Great
Yes.
uncle. All right.
Yes.
So Jason and Simone were what, living in Arizona or something?
They were living in Arizona and California. They were moving all around, really, in search of a good life where they could be in the restaurant business and still be able to have a good life.
And so Jason decides, hey, let's go back home because what had happened to that old barbecue place that his great uncle had?
Well, really, they were back home visiting family, as they had done many times. But the building itself had become a barber shop and probably a few other businesses in between after Raul had closed the barbecue business. But when they returned, the building itself was for sale.
Okay, so they looked around, thought this will work.
Yeah,
They bought it, but you gotta have a pit.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Like, even though it was a barber shop, they didn't really touch anything that had been in the kitchen
Oh
slash
my
pit room.
gosh, it
Because
was
they had this giant concrete pit.
time capsule.
Yeah, really, it was. Yeah, I mean, you have this huge pit that they built. It wasn't anything on wheels, so you couldn't move that thing out of there.
Mhm.
So the pit still remained, and essentially it looked like Raul's barbecue from as far as Jason could remember.
So what did Jason decide to do? Did he reset things as Raul's barbecue? I mean, that it's got a brand.
Right. Well, they call it R&R barbecue or Rockin' Raul's Smokehouse, right? So it's an homage to Raul. The menu isn't. The menu is quite a bit different than Raul's because really the only thing that Raul served was brisket. That was the main thing that he did. So they've got the old family recipe for the brisket, for the barbecue
got
sauce,
the recipe.
and this incredibly spicy green salsa. This salsa verde is fantastic, but those are really the only three family recipes they've got. All the rest of it is stuff that Jason and Simone have come up with.
Had they been doing it before?
They hadn't really cooked. No, they had never worked in a barbecue truck
Amateur.
before. They were certainly professionals as far as the restaurant business
Yeah,
goes,
right.
but they were barbecue amateurs.
That is fascinating. So did you get a chance to taste the wares?
I did, yeah. They started off on a good foot with homemade bread. Like, that's just a rarity with so much cheap white bread found at barbecue joints.
Homemade bread.
Yeah, and then they do these potato cakes topped with chopped brisket, some of that salsa verde. It was sort of their take on a stuffed baked potato. Yeah, I mean, the food was good. I really liked that the sausage itself was served with grilled onions and this homemade mustard. So yeah,
Gosh, that sounds so good. But you're in a pretty remote area, aren't you? I mean, Fort Davis.
yeah. I mean, Fort Davis, it's 30 minutes from Alpine, 30 minutes from Marfa. Like, you got a ways to drive to any other spot for barbecue.
So how's business?
Business is good from what I can see. They certainly weren't complaining about it. They feel like the people of Fort Davis have really come around to them taking over Raul's spot, and the fact that it remains in the family, I think, means a lot to the folks in town.
Yeah, and the fact that they're using the same pit. That's
Yeah,
just phenomenal.
Same barbecue pit and same brisket recipe, same methods.
You can read all about it in Texas Monthly. That's where Daniel Vaughn will be. And you know what they say, where there's smoke, there's Daniel Vaughn, barbecue editor of Texas Monthly. This sounds like a joint I gotta go visit.
Get to Fort Davis.
I will do. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Support for Where There's Smoke comes from HEB, whose Texas Tough barbecue foil and pink butcher paper helps seal in moisture and flavor, keeping food temperature steady. HEB. Here, everything's better. Support for Texas Standard comes from the TCU Neely School of Business Executive MBA. helping students transform their career with weekend classes, allowing degree completion in 18 months. More at go.tcu.edu/EMBA.
You're listening to News 88.7.
Access to information is your right, not a privilege, and it isn't something you should take for granted. Reliable, vetted reporting matters, especially now.
Houston Public Media keeps you connected to what's happening in Greater Houston, the country, and around the world. But we rely on your support to make it possible.
This is your chance to stand up for the kind of journalism that protects your right to be informed.
Give now at HoustonPublicMedia.org/donate or call 888-909-0887.
Support comes from UT Health Houston, home to Dr. Mary Aitken, who is focused on keeping children safe from preventable injuries through research, education, and advocacy. More at uth.edu/manyfaces.
Houston Public Media brings to you PBS World. Experience the personal connection behind the headlines with programming devoted to telling stories that humanize complex issues. PBS World on TV 8.6 and online at HoustonPublicMedia.org.
You've got it tuned to the Texas Standard. I'm Laura Rice. Water is life. That's one of the first lines of a new documentary airing on PBS stations across Texas. And that claim that we need water to live should come as a shock to no one. But its basic truth and the facts built upon that are eye-opening. The documentary is Thirst for Power, and it's based on a book by the same name by Michael Weber. Weber holds named chairs in the LBJ School of Public Affairs and the Department of Mechanical Engineering at UT Austin. Michael, thanks for stopping by the Texas Standard Studio.
Well, thanks for having me. It's great to be back.
Well, and congratulations. When you first wrote the book, did you imagine yourself also a movie star?
It was not quite the plans initially. Really, the point was to help explain to people the importance of energy and water and how they're interrelated. And it took years to write the book and then years to make, produce, and now release the documentary. It was really fun. And it's a global story with a lot of Texas anecdotes. So it's a Texas story, but also features some personal elements of my family as we learn about energy and water together. So it was really fun. I didn't really expect that. It's a nice outcome.
Well, I was going to ask you about that because sometimes the academic gets sort of a narrator role or a sort of a let's stop in for an interview, but you're really a character in this movie. It's about your some of your dreams as a child and about your family and a trip, and that must have been fun.
It was fun. So I went to the south of France when I was 12. My family, my father was a professor at UT, so the story starts to sound familiar. Did a sabbatical in France, went to the Pont du Gard, this Roman aqueduct in the south of France. I learned about water and water infrastructure, and it kind of hung with me. And now I'm a professor teaching and studying some of the same topics, and we kind of repeated the story. My wife and I, we took our kids to the south of France to go see the Pont du Gard, and that's how the story kind of takes off in the film.
And I understand you work with some local filmmakers to make this all happen.
Absolutely. I mean, Austin's got so much creative talent. The director of the film is Matt Ames, and the producers are Office Media, and it's really great to work with a local company to tell a global story so well.
Well, you previewed this already because you're a regular guest on the program, and people probably know you a bit like I do. You're the energy guy. And so while your book and this documentary are about water, it's also about this other convenience we take sorely for granted in this modern world, which is energy. Could you share a few statistics with our audience, a couple that struck me more about water, agriculture, and energy production?
Absolutely. So I'm an energy guy. I'm also a water guy, really an energy water guy. And they're really both important. We need water for life and energy for quality of life, and they are interconnected. So we use water for energy and energy for water. And that's the part that's surprising for many people, how much water we use for energy. We use water to grow corn for ethanol. We use water to spin turbines at hydroelectric dams. We use water to cool power plants. So we use water for energy. We use energy for water to heat, pressurize, treat, chill, make ice, you name it. We use energy for water. So the supply chains for water depend on energy, and supply chains for energy depend on water. This interconnection means if you have a problem one, you have a problem the other. It also means there's opportunities. Conservation becomes conservation on the other. So let me give you some numbers. About 10% or more of our energy just goes to the water system to make the water safe to drink, to make it heated for our showers, to make steam for industry, and about another 40% or so is used just to cool power plants. So it's incredible how much water we use for the energy system. So we're using more water for energy than we use for agriculture or for cities, and that's a surprise for a lot of people. If we just take water heating in America, about 3 or 4% of our energy just goes to water heating. That means we use more energy to heat our water in America than Switzerland and Sweden use for all purposes combined. So we're using like multiple countries' worth of energy to heat our water.
And
it's a start. I'm an educator. I believe in educating the students directly in the classroom here at the University of Texas, but also we create a bunch of resources for the general public. Actually, there's a website, firstforpower.com, that has a lot of free educational resources that we made for people. There's also something they call Watchers in Texas and Resourcefulness, a bunch of free websites, free materials to educate K-12 students for the general public. So we really want to educate people because that's a start. And then we can start to think about solutions after that as well.
Now, I want to think a little bit about the way Texas was built, because you observe this in the documentary. Like you mentioned, you're visiting the south of France, and in a lot of European cities, the cities were built around rivers. And in Texas, not all of our cities look like that. How does our distance from water resource increase our challenges here?
I would argue actually Texas and most of our cities are on rivers.
Yeah, a lot
Just
of them.
about.
Yeah.
Until you get to West Texas, either near the coastline, take like Houston or Corpus Christi.
I'm thinking like Amarillo.
Or Amarillo is above a big aquifer, not really on a river.
Yeah.
But if you take Dallas, we go Austin, San Antonio, all along I-35, that is the furthest navigable upstream position you could get year-round for rivers. That's why those cities are there. And the availability of river water will affect the future of these cities. But some of these locations further west, where there is not much water, and that will grow. We see that already. So Texas does have a water story as well. Sometimes it's not on the surface, sometimes it's in the ground in the aquifer. You have to drill for it. So you have to drill for the water if you want to get the water for hydraulic fracturing too, so you can competition for some of these resources. But there is a Texas challenge in that we tend to go in epic routes punctuated by biblical floods. So we go back and forth, right? Too much water at the wrong time in the wrong place, and too little water most of the time in most places. That's the Texas story.
Well, a lot of growth, right? And I wonder, there's someone in the documentary who talks about it's just a matter of when places run out of water. Do you see that for Texas in the near future?
We've already seen it. There's some cities that say no more subdivisions because we don't have the water. We already have some small towns that run out of water that have a trucked in. So it's a real crisis already. We have a big drought. It will limit growth as we have more people and we have more industry, we have more data centers and more crops, more livestock. We have a lot of living things and a lot of built things that want water. That will be a real stress for us. In Texas, we feel the water constraint before we feel the energy constraint. We're an energy abundant state. But if we have water constraints, those will become energy constraints. And that's part of the hidden story that a lot of people don't realize.
Well, as you point out in this documentary, Earth is a blue planet precisely because of all of our water. So beyond awareness and conservation, are you hopeful for the type of action that's going to secure water and energy for the future?
I hope so. I think so. I tend to be an optimistic guy. I'm a techno-optimist. I'm a believer in humans would be